So, Daniel Reese here and Corey Spinks.
Yeah, man. What's up?
Charlotte, North Carolina. We get the privilege of helping roll out a No Place Left strategy in Charlotte. And basically what that means is we want to see disciples multiplied in every segment of Charlotte, and also new leaders raised up and sent off to new places. And so we base our ministry out of Charlotte here, and launching in new places. You guys are Louisiana and striking other places, and we'll focus a little bit on the Northeast and other parts of really other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But this is where we live, and this is where our daily grind at Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, man.
Now, Corey, this is bittersweet because Corey is leaving us.
Yes.
And so I'll make a quick video here about how we're raising up missionaries locally who are ready to charge hell with a water pistol, and they're prepared, they're confident and competent in how to do this. And also I want you guys to hear Corey's vision for where he's going and how you guys can partner with him and be a part of what God's about to do in other part of the world.
Yeah.
So Corey, tell us a little about your journey in getting involved in church planting movements.
Okay. Yeah, man. Just come from a traditional church background. Been bivocational youth pastor at a couple of different churches. So having a good understanding of ministry inside the church, and been on some short-term trips, things like that. But I always felt like there was something that was missing, that I really wasn't grasping disciple making, but I knew how important it was. And so while serving in churches and working, chasing that American dream a little bit, I had an older brother that was just kind of pouring into me, and he was reading a lot of material and asking a lot of questions to missionaries and things about things that were going on in other parts of the world. And so he was giving me material to read, so I started slowly reading through it. T for T, Steve Smith, Ian Kai, Four Fields of Kingdom Growth, Nathan and Carrie Shank. And so I'm reading all these things and hearing podcasts and all these, but the question was still in my heart, will this work in the United States? I'm hearing these stories of all over the world, churches being multiplied, disciples multiplied, but man, will this work in this context? So I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to find out the answer to that. And so I came home from work one day and told my wife that our life's gonna change. We're gonna do something radical. And so, man, we found an organization in Atlanta that has like a missionary training school, and they put you in an apartment complex among immigrants and refugees and learning to live incarnationally and do ministry among these people. And so, man, I quit my job, sold my house, and we moved from Louisiana to Georgia for 5 months. And so then we're kind of, what's the next step? What are we doing next? And that's where I met you, man, in Atlanta, and just kind of a vision cast for this team in Charlotte, and understanding I needed to learn, man. I was green as could be as far as church planning and disciple making goes. And so we decided to move our family to Charlotte to be part of this team, to launch, and to learn from somebody that had seen things and had been invested in themselves. And that was huge for us, to have that coach, mentor aspect and be taught all these different things that we've been taught. So now we're getting ready to go to London.
London.
So, yeah, man.
Okay. So London's next. So if you look at this diagram here, I got this from Steve Smith, first person I saw draw this up, this vision for what if we had hub cities here in the U.S. Where they're learning to multiply disciples and churches here, and then sending out leaders to see that happen in new places. And since then, we've really taken to that as our No Place Left coalition across the U.S. New cities opening up that are practicing this, saying, hey, this is good for us, for our city. We need a movement in our city.
Right.
So this isn't missions training school. This is, we need a movement in our city.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, it just so happens that movement principles work everywhere.
Yeah.
And so this is primo missionary training for wherever somebody might feel called to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so Charlotte is a hub for folks to come and learn. And you're like the prototype. And so if we can get 10 more of you, part of making this video is say, hey, we need to replace Corey. We need 10 more, really. And so we're asking God for 10 more Corys that would really sincerely pursue movement here and then launch into new places.
Yeah.
Also, Houston. In fact, Houston's launched Andrew Coker to
Manchester, England. Yeah.
So you guys are buddies already?
Yeah, we've connected and hopefully be able to hit the streets a little bit together and feed off of each other and see how things are going in the different parts of England.
So here we'll talk about kind of some of the practical things and just think about from the perspective, there's somebody else out there, pastors are always hearing from different members, hey, I'm called to missions, what should I do next? And so how would you make the case that learning by doing has been really valuable for what you're going to do next? And what I'm going to do, Corey, is I'll draw this.
Okay.
I'll draw 4 fields up here and just give a quick overview here. This little diagram reminds us of basic missionary strategy. We're thinking first entry, who and where is our mission field, and how do we share the gospel, and then discipleship and church formation and leadership development that continues this whole process.
Yeah, definitely with the entry strategy, understanding Luke 10 and seeing, okay, what did Jesus do? And Luke 10, Jesus is sending out his disciples and he gives them specific instructions of things to do and then not to do. And so we look at that and we say, man, let's do that. Like Jesus said, do this, so let's do it. And we're seeing it work all over the world. It's not just in a North American context. And so when we go out and we're looking for this house of peace and this person of peace, by knocking on their door, meeting them on the street, coffee shop, wherever it is, share the gospel with them and let the gospel be the filter. So that would bring us into the next field, the gospel, sharing that. And the tool that we use there is 3 circles. And there's several gospel tools out there. You've got the bridge diagram. People use Romans Road. There's several different things. But for me, this resonated. It was simple. It was reproducible. And seeing my 6-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son be able to do this. I was like, okay, I'm sold. They can do this. A child can do this. People that barely speak English are being able to do this, and reproduce it.
So when you arrived here, you did a lot of this.
Yeah, man, that was, I'd say, we spent first part of the year that we've been here, really hitting this hard and understanding this is what it looks like, this is the process, and how we go about doing it. But still understanding that we can't control that soil, so it's kind of, so broadly. We're just casting seed everywhere we go. Grocery store, gas station, coffee shop, restaurant. Share the gospel, And when we find people that are receptive and want to know more, man, we meet with them and say, hey, we'd love to start a Bible study in your home and disciple you, teach you about discipleship. And yeah, that's here. And we use a process known as the 3/3. And it's simple, and it encompasses everything that you would want in a meeting with someone, whether that's a discipleship meeting or even a church meeting, because we're seeing these meetings become healthy church. That we're meeting with people and then they're getting it. Man, this is church for us. We're having church. And so we see in Acts 2 the healthy church. What were they doing? And we're seeing people here in Charlotte and all over the world realizing, man, this is in Acts. This is what these people were doing. What are we doing? We should be doing what they were doing. And so we see those functions taking place. And then we're finding the leaders there and investing more time in those leaders. Spending time with them, what we would call Timothy time, rolling out some more tools for them. spending a lot of time in Scripture and prayer, and teaching about fasting. And for these churches to stay healthy, but then for them to reproduce, to start this process all over again. So what if we take this healthy church and they go into a new field and start this House of Peace search? What do we see then? And man, I truly believe that that's how we're going to finish the task at hand.
So you've learned all these things by doing these things?
Yes.
Okay. And what about and why don't you just draw on this side of the pond in London?
Yeah.
What things are you also going to be doing over here?
The exact same
things.
Same
thing?
Yeah, the
Okay,
exact same things, man. So even going across the pond, and some things would change, but far as just a larger city, but it's still lost people, and we're going to engage them the same way,
Same. House of Peace.
House of Peace.
3
circles, 3/3 format when we're together, and then teaching them how to be healthy church, and to not rely on me, that the priesthood of the believer, that they're capable and able and called to do these things, and releasing that authority to them. And so, we're going to do the same thing in London. Kind of the vision for London is we'd like to see a multiplying church at every tube stop in London. And there's over 250 tube stops in Greater London.
So 250 multiplying churches. Across London. And can you tell us a little bit about the lostness in London?
Yeah, so London is one of the most diverse cities in the entire world. It's estimated that around like 90% lostness. So you're thinking 10 million people estimated Greater London Metro, and almost 90% of them don't have a real relationship with Jesus Christ.
My goodness. So, also, the other thing I was super pumped about, we were just talking about, is this leadership development piece, which a lot of what you'll be doing, and you're biting off a big chunk in London, is Corey will be investing in leaders, network leaders, new church planners, missionaries, people like that. Yeah. And so learning how to raise up leaders, learning what do you do with high caliber leaders?
Yeah, when we find people that are, they're running. As you give them things, they're running with it, and then they're releasing it to other people. And we want to spend time with those people. Whether that be in their home, over meals, just continually coaching them and encouraging them. So here in Charlotte, we have a guy named Tony, and we've cast vision to him, we've trained him, and he's taken the things that we've given him and given them to other people. So we're seeing these tools reproduced by several people under Tony, and just, man, a heart for the kingdom, and to see Jesus' name be great among all people,
So Tony, you meet with Tony for church. If you say this, let's pretend like that's you and Tony.
Okay.
And tell me about what happened next.
So we've got Pedro here, and then Jose there. And so now Pedro has been giving all of these tools and just understanding who he is in Christ and being the ambassador that he is. Man, he's already, God's used him to plant 2 churches inside of his family's homes. Over 20 different units of people that have come to him, seeing the change in his life now that he follows Christ.
This is Pedro.
Yes. And they're asking questions. Man, who is this Jesus? We want to learn more about him. And these are people that would not normally be in a worship Sunday service on a Sunday morning. These were just friends and family members that he knew, and they saw the change in his life and wanted to know what was going on. And so,
you mentioned you started off, you like reading T for T. A lot of us have, we read it and we ask the question, we hear it a lot, like, is this possible in the U.S.? I heard it just 2 days ago from a church planner. And now, before we're sending a missionary, we're sending somebody, you actually not just believe it, but it's not theory any longer. You've seen this.
Right.
You've seen multiplication begin to happen.
And been in the middle of it. So that question that I had was, hey, will this work in the U.S.? But now here I am, right in the middle of it, happening right under my nose in the United States. And And then not just here in Charlotte, but hearing stories of other practitioners, Houston, Raleigh, South Florida, all these things happening, Atlanta, all these places, man, right here in the United States. So we can't say, oh no, this would never work.
Yeah,
it's working.
But you've seen it. You see it even at your own hands. You've seen it. You've learned the skills necessary. You've seen how a team's led and can raise up your own team.
Yeah.
And lead Four Fields training to raise up new leaders. And so those are the kind of leaders and families that we want to send to new places. Now, the next step in this, they'll partner with people that are practicing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in your case, you're hooking up with IMB folks.
Yeah. So there's an IMB team in London, and we'll partner with that team. And kind of our role on that team will be to help implement this strategy among that team as being practitioners. And then, while they're helping us with cultural acquisition things and learning what it is to live cross-culturally, and we'll be helping with them with strategy and implementing these tools and this process, inside of that team. And then training them and taking this training as we train people in the L1, the L2 trainings, and then the 4-day mid-level, releasing that and letting them go with it and start training in other places. So we want London to be kind of the hub of Europe, if you will, and so we're living in London, but we're going out into other places and we're partnering with other practitioners and doing trainings all over Europe.
Mm-hmm. So the next phase in this potentially is, like in some places people are learning, it doesn't have to be London. It could be Delhi, Kathmandu, pretty soon I think Lebanon, Athens.
Yeah.
They're ready to receive practitioners.
Yeah.
All right. So, but the next phase is leaders launching out into new UPG places and starting new teams.
Yeah.
And really, I think that you'll be starting your own team more or less from a lot of your training and stuff in London early on, but you've learned that skill set already. I'm just trying to think about the young guy or girl who's thinking, man, I feel like I'm called to missions. What's my next step? Or even the pastor who has somebody there, and they're going, how do I help prepare these people?
Yeah.
And like I said, man, we're losing Corey. Let's replace him with 10 more.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think also the dual vocation. The person has a full-time job, and they're going, hey, what's the best way for me? What are some practical steps I need to take to get involved and prepare myself for mission field?
Yeah, I think a huge thing, kind of at the center of this is being part of a team that has the like mind and the mindset that you do, with seeing that vision of there being no place left that hasn't had access to the gospel and have disciples being made and churches planted. So I would say, being part of a team that can pour into you and encourage you and love on you while you are pursuing these things in ministry and pursuing that no place left.
Okay.
So
team, and I'll say training.
Yeah, team and training is huge. And then the tools, man, which that comes from that training, is those tools, giving some things that you can hold on to and say, hey, now I've got something concrete I can run with. You know, it's not this theory anymore that I've read or that I've seen, but now I know how to do this, and I can go out and teach other people how to do this and share these things with people. I think that those things are massive and a necessity. Yeah. You know, I mean, we know that honestly, dysfunction inside of a team is the number one reason for people leaving the field. You know, so we're like, hey, let's have that team, that unity, be trained with these tools that I can use anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that's good. And then on this end, it's almost a vetting process where, you know, hey, we know this person has work ethic. We know they're not going to go out there and share the gospel and find out it's not easy and get discouraged and quit.
Yeah.
If they're going to quit, they can quit on this end. It's a lot cheaper than having to fly a whole family over there.
Right.
Language acquisition and all those things. But they land actually with a ready to plug and play missionary.
For sure. You've got this playbook, if you will, and it's like, hey, I'm here. This is what I'm created to do. This is what I want to do, and you hit the ground running.
Amen. We're super excited. One of the things we hadn't mentioned yet is this journey right here. Some of the things we help folks discover is, okay, what's your organization, your platform, who are you connecting with? In your case, you're hooking up with IMB folks.
Right.
They'll sign an MOU contract with you. And that tells you something right there. If you're familiar with IMB, that tells us something about the quality of missionary that's raised up out of the field like this. But they'll sign an MOU contract. You'll partner with them, like you mentioned. But in other places, it doesn't have to be IMB. You can partner with other people that are doing the same strategy. The other thing is funding and organization.
Yeah.
Funding, organization, and the location. Those are kind of the things we have to answer here in getting the person over there.
Yeah.
So Corey, what is your, tell us about funding. I know Europe, the dollar doesn't go so far in Europe.
Yeah. When they gave us the budget to live in England, we were kind of like, whoa, like, oh, okay, how do we do this? But and we know that God's in it, and that it seems to our eyes that, man, it's just this steep mountain to climb, but we needed someone to help us with that process. So we have an organization called Allegro. They handle our funds for us. There's a small fee that we pay them to help us do that, but it's worth it, So they're a nonprofit, so as people give and they partner with us to be part of our financial support team, it's a tax write-off for them, and it helps us. So we can report to this company and say, hey, we need money bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is. When we request that money, they put it in our bank account. So it kind of takes a lot of the stress out of me trying to manage everything on my own. That they're there to help.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we've watched you guys live. We've seen your integrity. You guys live a simple life, but life in Europe is it costs more. And we were crunching the numbers a minute ago, and 45 people came in at $100 per month. 45 people at $100 a month would put them in a place where they could be able to travel, they could be able to train, and there again, you're not just funding somebody that's going to be sharing the gospel with a lot of people. You're funding somebody that's going to be creating gospeling machines, churches that are planting churches, and affecting leaders.
Yeah.
So I say it's whenever you invest in a church plant movement leader, it's an effective investment because it's not just you're not just paying for an evangelist to run around the city. And by the way, most of our missionaries aren't sharing the gospel at all. So I think that's a good start, is invest in people that are actually sharing the gospel. Yeah. And I know you do that. But I know that you're ready to do more than that and invest in leaders who will multiply disciples in churches, that plant churches. And so anyway, I can't say it enough. If you have extra money to spend on nonprofit, give it to a church plant movement leader. And Corey and Amanda launch into London. It's easy to underestimate just how lost. London is full of unreached people groups. Yeah. And London itself is unreached place, largely. Like you said, less than 10% evangelical believers. And so you're looking at a lot of people perishing. It's easy to take it for granted. You think it's Europe. It's we see white skin, and we're thinking, they probably already know the gospel. But man, I've been there. I've been to I think they said it was 98% lost in Ireland, and I questioned. I said, "Is that really true?"
Yeah.
And I just went on the street and just started asking, sharing with people, and I found that to be really accurate. And I was just watching, Corey. I'm walking down the streets of Dublin. I'm just watching, and I'm counting people off, 1, 2, 3, 4, and going to hell, 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 going to hell. I did that 100 times, and then I said 2 times, going to heaven, going to heaven. And I started doing that. The tears started coming down my face as I was walking down the street. And I'm thinking that'll be every day in your life. You're going to be walking down city streets full of people that are, they're not in poverty. They're not, they seem to have all their needs met, but they are dying and going to hell. And we need church planting movements in places like London and so many others. So to me, it makes sense. I'm going to miss you.
Yeah, man.
But it makes sense because I know a little bit about the Father, and it makes sense to me that the Father would say, the Spinks family, you guys go to London. That registers with my heart because there's so many people perishing there, and we're so honored in any way, brother, to help pack your bag.
Thank you, man.
And it's been such an honor, brother, to run with you.
We've enjoyed it, man. I definitely I thank you for just the coaching, the mentoring, being here, able to learn from you, because that was huge to have somebody to invest in my family, in me, trying to wrap my head around what this looks like, and being able, those Wednesdays that we've spent together, the Timothy time and learning, and now being able to replicate all of those things that I've learned is huge, and I think it'll go a long way in this ministry.
Amen. So there again, you can see allegrosolutions.org/donate, and it's when you go to donate, the name you want to give to is Q City Movements. It's movements with an S. .cas. That's Corey Amanda Spinks, CAS. And man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
45
awesome.
people give $100. Boom, you're ready to rock.
Yeah, we'd be fully funded, and we could hit the road.
Yeah. We need that. We need that to happen. Anything else?
That's it, man.
Okay. Praise the Lord.
Appreciate it.
So other thing I just mentioned, as far as on our end, churches can do this.
Yeah.
First Baptist Church can do this. Your church can do this. We can help you set up a residency where you're doing exactly this. You don't have to quit your job and move to Charlotte. Maybe you're already in a city.
Mm-hmm.
We can help your church develop a residency program where they're learning at the same time they're continuing their job and all like that. They're learning how to make disciples, how to plant churches locally, and they're learning, man, I can do this in another place.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that. We're seeing that happen here in the U.S. in several different cities. Definitely in Tulsa with Brian and those guys. Even in our home in Louisiana, we've got some things that are starting to develop. So very encouraging and exciting.
Amen.
Yeah, man.
Let's see, Corey.